Hello everyone, Ramirez here, Tidewater Renaissance Fighting Arts, and today I'm not doing a subscriber request. More importantly, I'm doing one for my own club members who had asked me about leather working in relation to armor and what kind of equipment they'd need. Because basically, I made a new sheath for a cold steel dagger for him for a tournament that's coming up. And he was like, Ramirez, it's great that I have the resource of you to kind of do stuff, but ultimately, this would be a lot more cost effective if I could do it myself. So what do I need to do leather work? And I think that's a good question. I think that the catch is, like doing anything, you're going to outlay a lot of money in the beginning, and then just doing stuff will be a lot cheaper and a lot more simple. So I'm going to go through some of the equipment you're probably going to need if you want to do leather work on your armor, or just generally in HEMA equipment overall if you're going to involve leather in it. So the first thing you're going to need is leather. I buy actually from a company. I'm going to try to find it. I'm trying to link it below. I think they're called Kentucky Leatherworks or something like that. Now what they do is they'll sell me a bundle of scrap leather. Just pieces like this, and they can be various colors. And it's kind of like you never know what you get until you buy it. But I think they charge 35 or 40 bucks for a big old bundle of scrap leather. And a lot of times what we're making are straps, buckles, and you don't need a big fancy hide to do that, which is a lot more expensive. Buying whole hides can easily run into the $100+ or more, depending on the thickness and the type of tanning. So one shortcut that I do is I buy these bundles of scrap leather, and it's amazingly helpful. You'll get stuff you can use. You'll get stuff that's very thin and flexible. You'll get stuff that's stiff. I find it very useful. Some people will say their default is to go to Tandy Leather because they can get leather. That's the name of the company. And it's easy to get. And this is a piece I got from Tandy Leather. Nice. Tandy's on the pricey side because they know everyone kind of defaults who doesn't know much about buying leather will result Tandy Leather. That's just easily done. But there are other places, and I would do some shopping. And if somewhere sells scrap bundles of leather for what we do, because we're not making handbags and we're not, getting scrap leather is a really great resource in terms of the leather itself. Once you have that, you have to go through the realities. Now you need to be able to cut leather. Now if you have a cutting board and everything, you can use an X-Acto knife or one of those X-Acto rollers. Kind of look like a pizza cutter, but they're way sharper and meant to go through stuff. Or you said you can do the same thing with an X-Acto knife. And that's fine. I use a set of leather scissors. So I got these from the same place I get the bundles from. It's fairly primitive, but they are very sharp and they do the job quite nicely of going through leather. I mark it where I need to and just cut along the lines. There is something that I don't use personally, but I would advise you to get, which is called a strap cutter. It's a little wooden tool with a metal blade in it, and you can adjust the size of the blade. And what you do is you run your leather through it at whatever width, and it just creates a long strap that you can then cut down to your size and your needs. As I said, I don't personally own one. Eventually I probably will get one, but I don't have one here to show you. The next tool on our list of things that you will definitely need is a hole punch. I recommend getting something with a good solid grip. There are cheaper ones out there. I've actually bought one from Harbor Freight Tools. And without this, you're going to be spending a lot of time squeezing and cutting holes. If it's unassisted, which means there's some mechanics in here that kind of help you with leverage to do that, it can be a little taxing on your hands. And if you're young, who cares? In a day, you'll feel fine. As you get older, as the beard grows longer, you decide being wiser is better than just muscling through everything. So this is incredibly helpful. I say get a nice pair of a nice hole punch with the assisted power. That will save you a lot of time. It'll save you a lot of strain on your hands, and just really, really nice. Any hole punch will have a variety of sizes of holes, so that's what this little wheel is for, is to change out what size of hole you'll need. And once again, that's just how they work. You find the right size, you get your leather, punch, 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 you're in business. Now, if it just came to that alone, now you have situations where you need to attach things. If you need to sew leather, and sometimes this will come in, sometimes this won't, you need a leather needle. And basically all it is a really thick needle. What you're going to do when you sew leather is, rather than trying to push the needle through the holes, you'll take your hole punch, set it on its smallest hole setting, and you can punch holes along it, and then you're going to run the needle through. It's actually very easy, if a little time consuming. Next up is, well, what do I thread it with? And this is the same thing as this, is artificial sinew. It's basically nylon. You can get actual sinew. It's much more expensive, but this is typically what we use to sew leather together. One of the things is it's basically waxed nylon. So what you want to do to make sure that it doesn't undo itself when you're done, make your knot, make it a little extra, or leave a little extra at the end. And you're just going to take a lighter and very lightly melt it so the knot fuses together. And once it does that, it's not going anywhere. But if you just tie it off, there is the possibility that over time, because it's waxed, it will actually separate. So you do want to make sure to melt it to fuse the ends together to make sure that it's consistent and that it stays. Now you can't have a buckle and strap without having buckles. And there are a variety of types out there. You can get really nice historical brass buckles. You can get some that are fairly generic like this. I got these off Amazon. But you will need buckles, occasionally for strap and buckles. You'll need rivets. You can even get things that are decorative. So this is just a cross, and it just has a post on the back of it. And they make lots of decorations, so if you're trying to decorate a belt or something like that, you can get these and also add them to your leatherwork. But both basically are going to need to learn to rivet. This is a box of brass rivets. I'm going to show them to you. There are lots of different types. There are what we call pop rivets. There are two-piece post and receiver rivets. When you're doing things for armor a lot of times, I use post rivets with a washer. So this is a post rivet. And you can get these in packs like 30 or 100, however many you need. You'll notice it has a flat end, and then it has a very long post, or what goes through the leather. On the other end of that leather, you can get ones that you just kind of mushroom down and you're good to go. But in a lot of cases, what you want is to also have a little washer. I'm going to try to get that in camera. And what that does is that goes over the post, and then you will mushroom the end of it. You'll widen, you'll basically peen that post so that the washer can't come out, and therefore everything is secured. If it is something where it's a strap that needs to move, you don't want the leather riveted down all the way. You want it most of the way, and then you rivet, you pin the end to where you want it to be. Most times that post rivet is too long, and that's deliberately to make sure that you can do it correctly. So you need to actually cut the post down. For that, you're going to want a set of nips. Just looks like a wire cutter, but it doesn't have any holes. This one is from Craftsman. It is an assisted, which, as I said, anytime you can get an assisted tool, you don't have to muscle through as much, and this cuts through a lot faster. I have another nip here. This one is for going directly down. This is unassisted, which means there's just that rivet there, and it's all your strength. It's going to cut the end of your rivet. Downside to these is obviously putting a little more hand strength and strain if you're using these. Another important tool you're going to need, this one is from Tandy Leather, is a rivet punch or rivet shaper. It's pretty straightforward. It has a flat side, that's the side you hit. It has another side that has a hole, and it has a little rounded domed part to it. The hole is for when you're trying to get that washer down. What you want to do is put the end of the post in, you hammer it in, it'll drive the washer down. The doming end is for kind of when you're at the end of riveting and you want to give the part you're peening having more of a rounded or domed edge. You can hit it a couple of times with this, and then you'd be good to go. Another really good idea, and I keep this in the same bag. Get yourself a Sharpie. Don't get it in black, especially if you're working with black leather, which I end up doing a lot. Get it in some color that you can see on the leather so that you can mark leather for cutting or for where you're going to drive rivet through. It's another really good thing to have. Next up, if you're going to be doing peening, you need a hammer. That hammer should have a ball peen. I also have a flat. And the reason is you don't want to hit something with the flat end, because a post, if you hit it on a wrong angle, the post is going to turn this way and you're going to really jack up your rivet. So you want to peen it by hitting it here and kind of working around and getting that point to flatten out, to widen and to flatten out. When you're done, as I said, you can use that rivet setter on the dome setting and then hammer it a couple of times, move it around to get a nice rounded peen. Or you can do it technically with just this. For a hammer like this, I'd go to Harbor Freight. I'd go somewhere like, you can get these $5 or $6. You don't need to go to Lowe's. You don't need to get a high-end $20, $30, $40 hammer for this. $5 or $6 will do. Lastly, you need something to hit it on. So you need an anvil. And most of you might think, I live in an apartment, where the hell am I going to put an anvil? And I'm going to tell you where I'm going to put it. When I'm not riveting, I can put it in the palm of my hand. This is a jeweler's anvil. It's meant for making jewelry, but if you live in a small apartment or if you're traveling, okay, you can't bring an anvil with you to an event, a big anvil. But I can bring this in a gear bag with some other of my repair kit, and if something goes wrong, I can get to a table, I get to a rock, and just sit this on there and do my riveting. So this is immensely helpful. They're about $20, but you can get these very easily on Amazon. And then if you're like doing professional armor, obviously, then you need a real size anvil to do that. But for just kind of repairs and leather work, this actually works really, really well. So just put it on something sturdy, hammer away, and you're all good. So I hope this was helpful in going over what kind of things you need to use to do leather work for armoring purposes. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll be happy to address them. And once again, I'm Ramirez with Tidewater Renaissance Fighting Arts, and I will see you in the next video.